What is today? Wednesday. Oh my gosh.
Wednesday.
It is just flying by. Andy is in my ear right now. Tell me it's Wednesday. Of course I knew it was Wednesday, Andy. We're going to bring him in here in a little bit. But first, we got to talk about some college basketball, and that is the one sport Andy doesn't do. Tonight, we're going to talk NHL, some NBA, get some UFC, maybe some darts. Maybe we can get a golf winner from Andy. Maybe there's a tennis match I don't know about. I think Indian Wells is this weekend. Regardless, he's going to hit every other sport but college basketball. 2 plays tonight. The reason why they are not up on Pickett is because they were not my own plays. I am tailing my good buddy Clint on Iowa State, which ultimately means they are not going to cover. I am 0-6 betting against Iowa State this year. Absolutely and utterly horrific. This one moved from 6.5 last night to 7.5 today on the Wagertalk odds screen. Iowa State has been that team that I have had such a bad read on. They've covered 8 of their last 9 games. Technically, one of those might have been a push, depending on when you bet it. They have been rocking and rolling in the Big 12, especially in Hilton Coliseum. I agree with him here. 2 ranked teams lay it with the home team. Worked out well for us a couple nights ago. Did not work out well for us last night with Illinois. I digress. Another game that I really agree with is Dave Koken. He will probably get mad at me because you guys are supposed to pay for this pick, but I'm going to give it to you guys for free. He pushed me over the edge here to lay it with the Spartans tonight. I know the Wildcats have shown a little semblance here and there of being a formidable basketball team. I don't want to take that 20-9 record away from them, but they play slow. They play methodical. Their games are downright boring, but they play clean basketball. They don't turn the ball over, but what they don't do is get the boards. I think that's where Sparty is going to prevail. They're laying this big number, of course, at home in East Lansing for only one reason: that defense. They are smothering. This game, I would not be shocked to see being played in the low 60s, which would make you think, why on earth would you lay the 9? As I mentioned, I have not been seeing the board that well, and that means time to lean on some of my friends who have. So I'm going to tail both of them. A couple other games that I thought about looking at tonight. And before I forget, don't forget, here on the Wager Talk Instagram, drop your questions in. Why? Because Andy's going to answer all of them in every single sport not named college basketball. So before I get into any more games, let's bring in Andy, see what he's up to. I talked to him for like 45 minutes in the past 2 days on the phone. That is entirely too long for me to talk to one human being, but we're working on some stuff at Wager Talk, and I'm excited about it. So welcome in, Andy, at Bump Sports on Twitter, at Andy Lang Bets on Instagram.
Thanks for having me, Kelly. You want to start off with darts? I know that gets the ratings through the roof here. No, I'm just kidding. No, we can talk NBA if you guys want to ask some NBA questions, and we have the loaded UFC card, UFC 299 as well. So if you want to ask any questions about that, been writing articles all week, especially about UFC 299. Only 3 NHL games, Kelly, so nothing too major going on there, but definitely some action tonight. And for UFC, should be a really, really good few days.
All right, we got a question from the chat already. Philadelphia minus 5.5 right now on the Wager Talk odds screen. Total 212. They want to know, what do you think about the Sixers off last night's loss? Or I'm sorry. Yes, off last night's loss. I apologize. To Brooklyn.
Yeah, they lost. They blew the lead. You got some concerns here with just who they're sitting tonight. Maxey is out again, which just kind of came out of nowhere. Teddy did a good job talking about how that injury just came out of nowhere. He got ruled out with a concussion, but he didn't leave the game where he had the concussion. So this was something that popped up afterwards, which is kind of a scary sign. So obviously no Embiid, no Maxey, no Melton. Lowry is officially out. So now you're left with a starting lineup of Campaign, Buddy Hield, Kelly Oubre, Tobias Harris, and Mo Bamba. Against most teams, Kelly, that would be a nightmare. Except Memphis is just permanently sitting their entire team here. I cannot lay minus 5.5 points to anybody in the NBA with this starting lineup of Campaign, Buddy Hield, Kelly Oubre, Tobias Harris, and Mo Bamba. You can't do it. Now, Memphis is pretty rough right now. They're 21-41 on the season. They beat Brooklyn. They took Portland to overtime. They're losing, and they're losing by margin to a lot of these teams, but both of these teams are they're not G League caliber rosters, but these starting lineups are just really, really bad. This is one of those, it's kind of like a dog or pass situation. There's too many unknowns, though. These players are not predictable for Philadelphia. I just don't believe that you can know what you're going to get from that starting lineup. There is a player prop I kind of like in this one. I've been taking Buddy Hield under his points, and he's been shooting the ball way less, and he just barely came under his total of 14 and a half last night, and he got 13. I think he gets over tonight. He's due for a breakout game. He should be able to have some wide open looks against this Memphis Grizzlies team. Their pace has not been very good. The Philadelphia 76ers, their offensive rating hasn't been pretty good, but against Memphis, this defense is so bad that I think this could wildly be a weird kind of over game. The over-under is 212.5. Both these teams have so many bad defenders starting tonight. I actually like the over. I kind of like Buddy Hield over his points. But as far as the spread, this is you're taking the points or you're taking nothing at all. You can't lay points with either of these teams tonight.
I think that's actually fair. I can't believe now we're going to just pivot. I talked about college basketball. You just mentioned NBA. The chat would love to know about some golf. Are Jason Day and Cameron Young worth looking at for top 20 finish at the Arnold Palmer this weekend? We're just going to go all over the place. I love this, Andy. If you have a question for Andy, you're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, drop it. Let's hear them. If you want to talk more college basketball, I can do that as well.
Oh, this is great. Yeah, absolutely. Cameron Young, for sure. Cameron Young has been feast or famine. You see that with a lot of young players. There's another player in this field, Sam Burns, that has struggled with consistency over the last couple seasons, but we're seeing the ceiling with Cam Young, and he's starting to get a little bit more consistent. 4th, 16th, and 8th in his last 3 finishes this year, and he likes playing here. He's finished 13th and 10th the last 2 years. This is a course that is going to favor his long game. The rough is 3 inches long, which means it can be tough to hit out of. So you do have to bomb the ball and set yourself up for some decent approach shots. 2 solid finishes in a row at a tough course. Kelly, the wind is going to be a big factor on Saturday and Sunday. But Cam Young, one of the things I like about him is he's got upside, and some of these bigger name guys have not been playing as well as they should. Rory McIlroy, he doesn't have any top 20 finishes on the PGA Tour in 2024. Patrick Cantlay, he only has 1 top 10 finish. Victor Hovland, he's yet to break into the top 10. So you have some of these bigger name guys that are priced above Cameron Young, and the fact is they're just not playing as good. I think Cameron Young is a really, really good value. I worry about Jason Day. He can struggle in the wind. He has a very high ball flight. It goes way up, and if it's windy, the wind can shift the ball a little bit left to right. But Cameron Young, top 20, absolutely, that's a solid play.
All right, we're going to pivot back to college basketball. The chat would like to know about Tennessee -5.5. Interesting tweet I saw this morning. I think it was from John Ewing, who does a lot of stuff for Bet Labs. 32, 13, and 2. That's 71% when you have the favorite in 2 teams that are both in the top 10. That applies to UConn tonight. It does not apply to Tennessee and South Carolina, but boy, is it oh so close. South Carolina, I want to make a case for this team that was basically projected to finish dead last in the SEC. And boy, have they come to play. There's nothing that they do particularly great, right? Solid on both sides of the ball, really slow and methodical style of play. This game is also going to be played probably in the high 60s unless somehow Tennessee runs away with this one. We know South Carolina is not as good as Tennessee on paper, but I'm not sure I can lay 6 right now on the Wagertalk odds screen with the Vols on the road. They defend the 3 ball pretty well, and I don't think that that's really where South Carolina is going to win this game anyway. I think they're going to win it in the paint if they do. Ultimately, I stayed off this one, but man, did I want to make a case here for South Carolina. Andy, let's see what else we've got in the chat. A couple more college basketballs. What about Houston? What about Houston, guys?
Can I comment on Houston? Yeah, I think people overlook some of the team totals when they're going up against some of these really, really good defensive teams. The UCF team total is 62.5. This is a team that just scored 52 against Iowa State. That's another really, really good defensive team. I don't follow college basketball a ton, But I really, really like playing some of these teams on their team totals, on their under or the over, based on the defense that they're playing. So I'd love your opinion on that, Kelly. UCF 62.5 seems pretty high against Houston, right?
It actually does. You know, it's interesting. You always bring in different angles whenever you and I do a show. And I always really appreciate it because there's so many more bets to make than when I just started out. And it was sides and totals and just some very minimal prop bets. Houston right now, the ninth longest active win streak with 7 wins. If you remember, they lost at KU and they had a couple back-to-back losses at Iowa State and TCU. Otherwise, this team has been flawless. Got taken to overtime by Baylor. That one stung a little bit. UCF, I thought we'd see more of a dogfight from this team versus Iowa State. They're at home. I think at this point, they're just going to ride out the season. Houston should absolutely run away with this one, but they don't because, well, their offense is not as good as their defense. They like to play that slow basketball. They don't turn the ball over. And what they do on the glass is nothing short of magnificent. Yet nobody talks about this team because they're not that exciting. Kelvin Sampson's team is just not that exciting. They don't get the love that UConn gets. They don't get the love that Kentucky's getting or any of the other traditional blue bloods. But this Houston team, I think, is going to be another sleeper team, right? Joke's on you. Just kidding. They're going to be a 1 seed. But for a 1 seed, everybody is overlooking them. I'm with Andy. I like that, Andy. That's a really good analysis here because you're right. I don't see the Knights scoring a ton of points.
Yeah, you got these teams in college basketball, like sometimes just the mismatch on defense is just way too much for a team to overcome. And if they don't go on a hot streak, you can just see them get frustrated, and then the pace slows down, and then they start looking for forced shots, and then it just becomes this really, really clunky offense. You know, it's like an offensive nightmare.
So you watched Kansas State last night. I take that. Yeah, that's exactly what they look like when they got down double digits. You say you don't know college basketball, but I think you do.
There's ways to go about. I have to laugh. Every time I think of Kelvin Sampson, I just laugh. Like, talk about one of the weirdest things that has aged so. It's just so weird. He once got fired from Indiana University for sending too many text messages. That's a real thing that happened in college basketball. A coach got fired because he sent too many text messages to recruits. Now it's just the wild, wild west, Kelly. They're on salary. Everyone gets a Porsche.
Everyone gets a Porsche. That is great.
It goes down in history as being fired for sending too many text messages. I think you get fired if you don't send enough text messages to recruits nowadays.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, come on,
you didn't do enough.
Go,
you
people.
Didn't do enough to get that said recruit. All right, we got a question here on the Instagram channel, and we're just gonna hit every sport on the board. Really looking forward to some UFC action this weekend. I want to sprinkle on Cheeto Vera via knockout TKO plus 500. What do you think, Andy?
Wow. We're going Cheeto Vera by knockout against Sean O'Malley. Okay. If he is going to knock out Sean O'Malley, this is going to sound weird. It could potentially be by leg kicks. Cheeto Vera has incredible leg kicks, and he can do some really, really good damage. Sean O'Malley has not really faced anybody who can deliver the type of leg kicks that Vera did. He faced Pedro Munoz, and Munoz was landing kicks, and then Munoz gets poked in the eye, and then the fight gets ruled a no contest. So if it is going to be a knockout, it's got to be by leg kicks. I don't think in a stand-up game it's going to be Cheeto Vera because he couldn't knock out Pedro Munoz in his last fight. It was very much a stick and move type of situation where it went to decision. Vera landed way more shots, did way more damage, but Sean O'Malley has such a height advantage that, Vera's going to have to be he's going to have to be punching up. So I think you're going to need Vera to do some real serious damage to the leg. So, at that point, you don't need to take Vera by knockout. He's plus 225 anyways. If you think he's going to win and you like the matchup, just take the plus 225. I don't think there's a reason to get too cute and try to pick a prop in that fight.
That's actually a very fair assessment. I was actually thinking it would be really hard to knock out Sean O'Malley. I know I don't follow a lot of UFC, but I know who he is, and he is an absolute and utter lunatic. Andy, we talked about this earlier. UFC, got to be a little crazy. Andy, I kind of really like Holland minus 130 against MVP. Do you think that's worth a nice size ticket on?
The only thing that's going to be missing from this fight, Kelly, is the circus music, because that's what this fight's going to be. It's just going to be a complete circus. You got Michael Page coming over from Bellator, whose claim to fame is that he broke a guy's skull in the ring. I just don't think he's that great of a fighter, and I think it's going to be a pretty big step up in competition for him in UFC. Kevin Holland has all the talent in the world. It's just, is he going to take the fight serious? Is this going to be just a showcase to go out and have fun, which Kevin Holland has done? Kevin Holland once fought Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Kevin Holland, all he had to do was take Wonderboy Thompson to the ground and he could have submitted him. This was a no-brainer. Instead, he said, I want to try and fight karate style with the karate master. And he ended up getting knocked out and lost that fight. So with Kevin Holland, you just never know what you're going to get. I have a few rules in the UFC. First off, I always fade female fighters who have just recently started OnlyFans. I fade fighters that have just had their first kid, and I never bet on Kevin Holland. That's just a
That's
rule
one of my
mine
favorites.
because
First kid. First kid's a good one.
This works in golf. This works in
Yeah,
golf. This
any
works for
single
quarterbacks.
Quarterbacks, pitchers. Yeah, if you are like the lone guy, if you guys don't know this, I have to touch on it because it's so great. When men have a child, their testosterone drops by almost 70% in the first 6 weeks. And then I think it obviously starts to creep back up, but it's like significant, like very,
the sleep
very
schedule is different. The sleep schedule is off. That, like, you get these individual athletes, they're a creature of habit, and nothing disrupts the habit of life rather than a baby. This has been the best golf theory I have had. I've made, I don't even know how much money I made, but taking these guys and fade them after they have their first baby is a great theory. But the Kevin Holland, Michael Page, I will be a spectator. I think it's going to be really fun. And to be honest, I don't think you bring in Michael Page to have him get flatlined by Kevin Holland. And Kevin Holland could absolutely do that if he takes the fight serious. I think this is just going to be, I think it's going to be them joking around, having fun. You're going to see some wild strikes. And I don't want to put my hard-earned money on this one. So Holland should win, but we've said that before in many fights that involve Kevin Holland, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. So I would say if you're going to play Holland, lower the unit size on that one.
All right. We're going to take it back to college basketball. A couple late additions, if you will, to the chat. They want to know about Iowa State. I laid 6.5 I laid 7, I apologize, with Iowa State this morning, and I laid 9 this morning with Michigan State. Abby Jackson, fan of the show. We always see Abby in the comment section. Her question is, Butler versus Xavier, would you take the over 156.5 or the spread? Let me open up my notes here and see why I did not bet that game. I'll be really honest with you. I know part of the reason why I didn't bet that game because the Big East has been terrible for me and terrible in general this year. I just have not had a good read on them outside of a couple of the top 25 teams named Marquette and Connecticut that play each other tonight. Butler's last home game of the year. And there's not really much else to say. Are they going to make the NIT? I have not looked at the NIT, bracketology yet, if you will. But this Butler team, I would not be wanting to lay points with them personally. Let's look and see what their last few ATS records are. See how they've been playing as of late. 2 is what it opened on the Wagertalk odds screen. 2.5 is what it is now. So a little bit of money came in on Butler. And that's probably because Xavier's covered one of their last 6, but so has Butler. Both these teams look just absolutely atrocious, but the total's gone under for 6 straight, Abby, and 11 of the last 15 for Xavier. I'm not a big totals person. Andy, anything stick out to you on this game that I know you have not watched a single Big East game all year long?
What sticks out is Xavier's just put up monster points against two bad teams, DePaul and Georgetown. But before that, their point totals are way, way lower than that 64, 75, 70, and 71. So be careful with the totals because the last two games really, really inflated. Butler's not nearly as bad as Georgetown and DePaul. So tread carefully on the total, as I imagine the books are kind of using kind of an average of what the totals have been for each team, but I think you're going to get a little bit of value towards the under just because of how high scoring the last two Xavier games have been.
All right, guys, if you have a question for Andy on basically any sport, drop it in the chat. I'll ask our producer Eric to go over and check out the YouTube channel, see if there's anything else over there. Andy, while we wait for either Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook to ask us some questions, anything you'd like to touch on for tonight or possibly this weekend?
Yeah, we got a couple nice NBA games tonight that have some real implications on seeding. So these are going to be games that I would think these teams are going to take serious. We can start with the Kings and the Lakers. Lakers do not look to be sitting anybody, and neither do the Kings. So you're going to get a really nice matchup tonight between full strength Sacramento and full strength Lakers. I mean, LeBron and Anthony Davis are listed as questionable, but they do seem like they're going to be able to play. Even though the Sacramento Kings have a better record than the Lakers, there is something I do not trust about the Sacramento Kings. And I just cannot put my finger on it. They're 34 and 26. And you look at some of their last, few games. So they beat Minnesota, one of the top seeds, in overtime, and they turn around and completely blow a game against Chicago. And before that, they lose big to Denver. And then they blow a game to Miami. But then before that, they beat the Clippers. This is such a strange Sacramento team. They win when they shouldn't. They lose when they shouldn't. And yet somehow they've got a really good 34 and 26 record. I kind of like the Lakers here tonight. They're very small favorites, but this is a Lakers team that has been playing better as of late. They lost to Denver. Everyone pretty much loses to Denver. That was a really big win against Oklahoma City on Monday. So I think LeBron has this team playing pretty well. They can't afford to give away many games in their pursuit to get a decent playoff seeding. So I lean the Lakers here tonight. There's a couple player props I like. I have a free play on Austin Reeves over 1.5 made 3-pointers. Kelly, he went under 2 games in a row, a few games back. But he's going over 10 out of 12 games, and he's getting a really, really good volume each game. So if you're looking at player props, take a look at Austin Reeves over 1.5 3-pointers. But I like the Lakers to win in this one. And also you got the Golden State Warriors against the surging Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks have won 6 in a row. I just don't trust this Golden State Warriors team. They had 3 wins. Those were against the Raptors, the Knicks, and the Wizards. And they turn around and they get blown off the court by 52 points against Boston. So it feels like when they step up in competition, they seem to lose these games. So they're at home. They're done with the road trip. The road trip got over on Sunday, but I like Milwaukee. It looks like Giannis is going to play tonight. So I'm going to lay chalk in the NBA tonight with Milwaukee and the Lakers.
Of course, because the NBA, as Ski and I talked about last night, is so great with their injury reports. Of course, Giannis is now going to play tonight. Andy Lang, you can get 25% off any one of his packages. Code Andy25 right now at Wagertalk.com. We got a couple more questions in the chat. Let's go back to that last one. What about the Warriors in a bounce back spot, Andy? You don't look at angles like that. You don't look at situations in your handicap.
No, it's just the makeup of this team. I'm not a believer in Golden State. I think they do a pretty good job of winning the games when the situation presents itself, and I just don't think this is a good spot. So, and it's not because of how bad they lost against Boston. Like we saw. It's funny. Everyone overreacted to that game when Boston wins by 52. And then Boston turns around and blows a big lead in the fourth quarter when Dean Wade, of all people, goes ballistic. So
there will be no Dean Wade slander on this show. You got it? Thank you.
I was giving him credit. The guy couldn't miss. But it just goes to show you can't react to one game in the NBA. Boston wins by 50, then blows a 20-point lead in the fourth quarter. It's just going to happen night in and night out. So I'm not paying attention to one particular game for Golden State. I'm just saying they're struggling a bit, and this is just a bad match. Who's guarding Giannis on that team? Giannis?
That's a very good point.
Nobody's guarding Giannis on that team. If he wants to, he can drop 60 on this team. I've watched him do it against the Pacers several times when Miles Turner's not playing. I've watched Giannis drop 60 on us, like without breaking a sweat. So you get Giannis, who's fired up. Damian Lillard has been shooting the ball pretty well. Now you could also say, well, who's going to guard Steph Curry? But fair point. But I just I don't believe that this Golden State team is a championship caliber team. And when teams like Milwaukee are motivated, they can go in and they can give Golden State a lot of problems. So I will not be on Golden State tonight.
All right, Andy, we got about time for maybe one or two more questions. Andy, I love your lazy line show on the channel. Any lazy lines being hung out today?
So, Kelly, if you don't know what the lazy line is, once a week we do a lazy line, which is a prop that the books have just been very lazy with, and they just keep putting out the same number every night. We hit a really nice run on LeBron James. The books were struggling with LeBron James 3-pointers. They kept putting out 1.5 3-pointers, and he kept hitting 2. And it was just like they weren't adjusting the number, they weren't adjusting the price. So we just kept playing LeBron James. And the concept of the lazy line is we're not going to play it one night. We're going to play it 3, 4, 5, 6 games. So, for example, we played Nazem Kadri for the Calgary Flames. He will have a point. We went on a 3-1 run on that one. LeBron James, I think we went like on a 5-2 run on that one. And the one last week was Evander Kane of the Edmonton Oilers to not have a point. We predicted he would go 2-1 or 3-0 on that play. And we went 2-1, cashing for clients. These are all client plays. So am I looking at a play for tonight? I'm not looking for tonight, but I will tell you I'm looking hard at Jake DeBrusk of the Boston Bruins to not have a point. He was really good in the middle of the year, and he has really cooled off. He had 1 point 2 games ago, and he came back against Edmonton and did not have a point. You're getting a great price on him to not have a point, and his schedule isn't great moving forward. So I think we got a 4 or 5 game stretch where we can take Jake DeBrusk of the Boston Bruins to not have a point. And the goal, Kelly, we're being realistic. We're not expecting 5-0 and 6-0 on these streaks. We're wanting to go 4-1. We're wanting to go 5-2, where over the course of the week we've got 2 or 3 units of profit. So
Yeah,
I would say
absolutely.
Jake DeBrusk lead. Yeah, that's the whole concept of the lazy line. We're not looking at one night, one game. We're looking at over the stretch of the next 3 or 4 games. So I think Jake DeBrusk is the leader in the clubhouse for the next lazy line.
Andy mentioned for his clients, he has up some really good plays for tonight as well as this weekend. WT.buzz/AL. Promo code Andy25 get you guys 25% off. Andy, we got time for one more question in the chat. Let's see what we got over here from YouTube. And then that's it. We're going to end the show. What do you like for UFC, Andy? Jalen Almeida. Did I say that right? And Sugar Sean.
Almeida.
There you go.
Let's see. What's it? Jailton Almeida and Sugar Sean seem like they play. Okay, so here's what I love about this Jailton Almeida play, Theo, and I'm with you. It's even money at -110. So Jailton Almeida, a master on wrestling, takedowns, and ground game. He hasn't fought the best competition, but he's dominated, and he's fighting Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades is known as a wrestler. The problem is we haven't seen it since 2021. He's got the strangest 3 fights in a row, Kelly. So his last fight, he got knocked out in the first 2 minutes against Pavlovich. The fight before that in the main event, his opponent blew out his knee 15 seconds into the fight. And then the fight before that, he knocked out a guy named Chris Dawkins, who's not even in the UFC anymore. Those are his last 3 fights. He has not had to use his wrestling at all. So we haven't seen Curtis Blades wrestle in 3 years. Jailton Almeida has been doing this in all of his fights. Jailton Almeida is undefeated in the UFC. I like Almeida. I think he's going to be too fast. I don't think he's going to be able – I don't think Curtis Blades is going to be able to hit him on the feet. And once it gets on the ground, there's just too much athleticism from Almeida. And you're getting -110. You're getting a pick 'em here on a guy that has submitted most of his opponents. He had a really nice win against Derek Lewis where he took him to decision. He got a lot of good cage time and some good work in there. I'm with you, Theo, that I like Jailton Almeida a lot, especially at minus 110. Man, we just talked about Sugar Sean and Cheeto Vera. Sean O'Malley's minus 278. Listen, I think for the value, Cheeto Vera is the play at plus 225.
I was going to say, don't you feel like it's gotten to the point where Sean is just overvalued? Doesn't mean he doesn't win. It's kind of like Max Vanderstappen. You know he's probably going to win, but is he worth laying the juice? Sorry, inside joke between Andy and I. Is that his name?
It's great. Yeah, it's Verstappen, but
whatever.
It's a combination.
He's the only Formula One driver whose name I can name.
If Max Verstappen was on the Vanderpump Rules show, it would be Max Vanderstappen. Yes, absolutely. No, Sean. So Sean O'Malley, he is overvalued. He's minus 278. He knocked out Aljo Sterling. It was a great performance. The fact is, Aljo Sterling was banged up. He definitely needed a break. And before that, he won a very controversial decision. Congratulations to him on winning that. But to all of a sudden be minus 278 against Marlon Vera, who's been there, done that, and can go 5 rounds. We know Vera can go 5 rounds. Can Sean O'Malley? I don't know. And if Vera starts teeing off on that lead leg, which he's going to do, Kelly, in rounds 1 or 2, O'Malley has to avoid getting damage on that lead leg. It takes away all the power of O'Malley. And I just don't think 5 rounds, you're going to see O'Malley win 3 of them. So I think O'Malley's path to victory is a knockout. Of course he can do it, but I'm just not sure that he can do it against Vera, especially if Vera has early success on the leg. I like Vera plus 225. It's just way too much juice on Sean O'Malley. So, yeah, there you have it.
All right. Now we've had our laughs. We've given out tons of free information and picks. Good luck to everybody tonight. Again, code is Andy25, wt.buzz/AL. Get 25% off any one of his packages at Bump Sports on X. And of course, at Andy Lang Bets on Instagram. Make sure you guys are following the Wagertalk Instagram page. We're giving out tons of free videos and free plays over there as well. I hope you guys have a very profitable Wednesday. We'll be back tomorrow with the man himself, Mr. Brian Power.